Okay, welcome to the regular City Council meeting, Tuesday, January 21st, 2025. Would you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Roll call, please, Misty.
Morris.
Here.
Weir.
Yes.
Smock.
Here.
Clements.
Here.
Dewater.
Here.
Approval of the January 21st, 2025 regular agenda.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Well, this evening we have Chief Dean to honor Officer of the Year, Brandon French, with outstanding commitment to excellence.
Thank you. So each year we try to recognize our officer, at least one officer in the department for kind of going above and beyond, or above and beyond maybe what the rest of the department might be doing. Anything that I say about Officer French could be said about any one of our officers. They all do a fantastic job. Officer French is one of our newest officers. He is a standard field sobriety instructor and a DRE, drug recognition expert. We've noticed throughout his short tenure here, one of the things he likes to focus on is impaired driving, and it didn't take him very long to stand out and gain some recognition by myself and the rest of the department. His dedication and hard work and commitment has been fantastic. And for that reason, I picked him for outstanding commitment to excellence this year.
That's awesome. Tonight, we also have with us Dustin Opatz. He is with Bergen KDV, and he's going to present to you the FY24 audit. And you do have the packet he sent along to go over with him.
Hello.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good, Dustin.
So my name is Dustin Opatz. I'm a senior audit manager with Bergen KDV. This is our third year with the city, I think, so super excited for the opportunity to come present in front of you all. If you have any questions as I'm going through the audit, definitely feel free to stop me. I have such a passion for city finance that if nobody stops me, I'll just kind of keep talking, usually without taking a breath. So the first slide it says independent auditor report on it. And so this is essentially what the city pays us for, to come in, test, examine, issue an opinion on your financial statements. So we do give an unmodified opinion, which is the best we're allowed to give as your auditors. It states that everything is fairly presented in all material respects. On the slide after that talks about, or I guess it's on the same slide, it talks about the government auditing standards report. So because you're a city in Iowa, we're required to test, examine, and look at internal controls. And so we do give one finding at a material weakness level, which is the highest level finding we give, related to lack of segregation of accounting duties. So it's a finding that I would say 100% of the cities your size receive from us in some respect, and it's related to just the small number of office staff that you have. So it's not that we're recommending any changes, it's just more of a recognition as a council of a smaller city that you do have a higher responsibility to be in the day-to-day stuff more, review things, because you just don't have enough office staff to perform a lot of those checks and controls and all of that good stuff. And then the last thing that we look at is the Iowa Code of Compliance. So the state auditor gives us a series of checklists and statutes to check compliance with, and so we had no findings related to that test work. Next, we look at the general fund. So overall, the general fund cash balance did increase by 600,000. So as Deanne talked about, the city does not have a fund balance policy, which is something that we would recommend you look at passing. At the end of the year, you had about 130% of expenditures in unassigned fund balance, which equates to about 16 months. On the receipt side, your general fund receipts did increase 16% at 314,000. Intergovernmental receipts related to increased related to a water trails project grant. Charges for services increased related to increased ambulance calls, and then licenses and permits increased related to increased building permit activity. On the disbursement side, total disbursements decreased about 8.3%. Most of that was in culture and recreation related to the campground project completing in FY23, and so those expenses went away in FY24. The next couple slides will give you your enterprise funds. So those are going to be your sewer, sanitation, and stormwater. These funds are different in that they are expected to be self-sufficient. Hopefully the charges you're charging your customers are sufficient to help them operate, as well as cover any capital needs, any debt service costs, anything else that comes up. So that very first slide is operating income, which is purely revenue that's brought in versus what it takes to run the department. It doesn't consider debt service costs. It doesn't consider capital projects. And so those numbers always look pretty great, right? Because they're very large and they're very positive because it doesn't include those items. So overall, the sewer fund did have a decrease in the operating income, and that's related to some maintenance for the Michigan Lift Station project this year. Outside of these numbers, there were $5.8 million of capital projects, $5.6 million of state revolving loan proceeds, as well as $480,000 of transfers from other funds. The sanitation, which I heard you talk about during your work session, last year had a pretty significant loss, and then due to the relocation of that yard waste center had a less significant loss this year. So you kind of have to take this slide with the following slide, which is the cash position. So overall, sewer fund cash is the highest in the 5 years presented, significantly higher than it was, even 5 years ago. And then the stormwater and sanitation funds cash were both pretty consistent and have been for the last 5 years. And then the second from the last slide is me. So that's how you would get a hold of me. I'm definitely here as a resource for you all. If I can ever help in any way, government accounting is wild, and so anything I can do to, make your lives easier, make something more understandable, I'm definitely here for it. But I'll take any questions if you have them.
So Dustin, the segregation of duties was always, I know, something been on the list. This audit did not have City Hall at full staff for the entire year, correct?
Yep.
Has that position unofficially, because I know you'd have to obviously redo the audit with the new information, has that position been resolved now with 3, or do we need potentially, not that we're hiring more, but to fully make that in compliance, or what you would recommend, or we higher than that?
Sure. So even with 3 people, it's tough. It's a lot easier than with 1 or 2 people. And that's something that we look at when the city is at full staff. And it's more of how it's kind of a, I don't know how to say it. It's cost benefit, right? To properly segregate an entire process, you'd have to chop it up into like 4 different pieces. In theory, with 4 different people. Is that an efficient way to run a department, right? So it's always that cost benefit, but it is something that we evaluate whenever there's staffing turnover.
Okay. But this one, for the majority of this audit, accounted for 2.
Right.
And we've now added a 3, so we may not have completely resolved 2,
Right.
but we have improved.
Right. Yeah.
Already.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And so there's a few different levels of findings. So material weakness is the highest level, basically saying there could be a material error in your financial statements because of these controls. There's a couple of lower levels that finding could drop to, where we'd still put it in writing, but say, yep, you put in some controls, and now it's the risk of it being a material error is lessened.
Okay.
So it's
Perfect.
definitely something we can look at, and we'll look at.
I just
Any
want to
questions?
congratulate our staff on having such a terrific audit. It's
Thank you.
It's not always easy.
And
Yep.
this, and of course, we all probably have seen questions or chatter about, an audit needing to be done or anything. Correct me if I'm wrong, is it required
Yes,
of the city every year?
every year.
And we have one done
Every
every
year.
year. And it is publicly available every year. So
Yes.
if anyone would like to check us, myself included, no offense to anybody here, but I'm not going to jail for y'all.
Yeah.
So please, it's right there.
Well, and the audit was actually in the packet as well tonight.
Yes.
So anyone that wanted to review it, it's right there, available, so.
So just,
Remind me how much we pay for that?
Now, we only got a bill for 16,000.
Yeah, I want to say it's low 20s.
Yeah, low 20s, yep,
I don't remember. I don't know off the top of my head, but
yeah.
Got to add your lunches in there.
well, of course.
not sure where that shows up in the audit form.
Miscellaneous.
We have to keep the $3.99
next to
under
the
tack, right?
Right.
Can't offer lunches here, or. And we appreciate you guys too. You're very great to work with, and, if there's anything that we need to pay more attention to, you're always great on, letting us know what we can do better to better serve the city.
Yeah, absolutely, and yeah, back at you. We really appreciate it. You always take really good care of us. You and Misty and other staff. So we really appreciate all the work you put into the audit, because I know it's a lot to get ready for us.
Yeah. That's for sure. Thank you, Dustin.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Appreciate it.
See you.
Now is the time on our agenda for public comment. If you have any comments, you can step up to the microphone and let her rip.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just had a couple of simple things. I would just like to know, are we gonna have some kind of tour to go through the sewer plant being just done? I'm very curious about making a walk and just looking
Yep.
at all that money we spent.
Absolutely, that will happen in the spring.
Okay? And then, excuse me? And then before the budget is finalized, will we get to speak on budget line items? I noticed tonight there was no asking back and forth. I didn't wanna speak up, so. is there
Actually,
another
there's a
meeting where-
public hearing for the public to comment
Was
on the
that when it's
budget.
final, though? Public hearing, does that make it a final deal? Am I correct there, or am I wrong?
Well, we have two public hearings now.
Okay.
We have a tax levy rate public
Mm-hmm.
hearing. That'll happen at the end of February. And then we'll have one in April for the finalization of the budget.
Okay,
Both of those are public hearings.
okay, that's all I wanted to make sure this year.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mhm.
I have a question to ask you. During your budget meeting, you mentioned about these garbage cans staying open. It might do something to the city to tell people that don't make sure those lids close. We've got 1,000 crows in this town right now.
It was really bad this
They're
week.
making a mess. They're really making a
Yeah,
mess.
it was bad this week.
Yeah.
And with the wind that we had on Monday,
Yeah.
it made it more difficult, let's put it that way. It was really bad on Grand Boulevard.
Never seen so many crows.
Yeah. Thank you, John. Anyone else this evening? Item 8 is approval of the consent agenda. Take a motion to approve, please.
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 9, approval of the resolution calendar.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Morris.
Here. Yes.
Weir.
Yes.
Smock.
Yes.
Clements.
Yes.
Dewater.
Yes.
All resolutions are approved. Number 10, authorization to approve repairs to John Deere 544K in the amount of $10,789.26 with Murphy Tractor. That was actually verbally approved. Was it last Tuesday or this Tuesday? Wow, where does the time go? Anyway, it was verbally approved already, so we could get working on it. So I'll take a motion to approve it
And just
publicly.
one
Go ahead.
clarification as well, just because and this was, maybe it's just me, but when I saw the $10,000 in repair, to me, it was different. There was almost half of it in normal maintenance.
Yeah,
So
Right.
we did have a repair, but it was not a $10,000 repair.
was not.
There was normal maintenance that was done at the same time that it was in
that
for
is,
repair.
that is correct.
So,
Yeah,
and that was just.
should have been repairs and maintenance.
Yeah, call it anal retentiveness, but that
Yeah.
was,
You're absolutely right, Justin.
Well, and it's on a, what did you say, a $400,000 piece of equipment, something like that?
Yeah, I think when we purchased that initially, which was back in 2010, it was 128,000.
Okay,
Now,
that was a little off.
now they're 458,000
yeah.
to replace it. So,
When your regular scheduled maintenance is $5,000, you know.
yeah,
My oil change ain't looking too bad.
yeah, no kidding. Did I get a motion for that?
Not yet.
You
Oh.
need a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 11 is request to schedule citywide garage sales for May 31st through June 1st.
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Come on, spring.
Yeah, I know, right. We're looking, see, we're calling it out into the air.
Yep, manifesting it into the world.
We are, I'll just, since I can make a plug right now too. Last year we had the party in the park on the first night of our garage sales. And it's gonna be the same night this coming year. So, pretty excited about that. We'll have in the newsletter, there'll be just kind of naming off our events for this year. So, save the date. 12 is request to schedule citywide cleanup for June 6th and 7th.
Motion to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 13, request to consider rental housing regulatory and inspection program and property maintenance code. The property maintenance code, we thought that we had enough in our own code right now. We didn't bring a separate piece. But Steve is with us tonight to talk about our need for the rental housing regulatory program. Steve, have a stand.
Hi, I'm Steve.
Hi, Steve.
So I think I've been doing this for about 2 years now, going on my third year. And we discussed this program in the past with the past council. The need that we're seeing is that Waterloo has implicated this code probably a few years ago. So what I think what's happening is we're starting to get, well, we have been getting, not starting. We're starting to get some of the stuff that's trickling into the smaller areas around us. I'm seeing it in Evansdale, I'm seeing it in Elk Run, it's even as far as Raymond. A lot of my calls, when I deal with code enforcement, they're tied to rental properties. And a lot of them aren't owned by local landlords, they're owned by out-of-state, banks, foreclosure companies. I'm sure if council has a chance to drive around town, I'm sure you're gonna see a lot of the stuff that we're dealing with. It's just getting to the point where I just feel like we need to do something. I have no control as code enforcement to do anything on the inside of a house. I mean, everything that we have in our current codes is basically just for the outside of the house. It has nothing to do with the inside. We don't have inspections, so the only time I get involved in anything is if I have either a citizen or a tenant reach out to us, and then I get involved. Usually if I get called out for unsafe conditions and I'm invited into the house, I'm gonna note the unsafe conditions and we're gonna address it. But I really don't have anything to where I can get into these rental properties. And a lot of tenants, they don't wanna call and complain because they don't wanna rattle their landlord. So there are a lot of them are just like, I'm gonna live in these conditions because I don't wanna get kicked out. Not saying that happens, but it could happen. So just my experience over these last couple of years in dealing more and more with code enforcement, because we've had a lot of code enforcement cases, I'm sure you've all seen. There's been a lot of code enforcement cases, and we've issued a lot of tickets, and we've been to court quite a few times, and we still have some battles that we're battling right now as well, too. But a lot of stuff is tied to rental properties, or we have some properties that are in trust. And the way this rental program works, if it's a trust and someone part of the trust is living there, then it's not considered a rental. But when you have a trust and you have someone living in the trust property that's not part of the trust, it's considered a rental. So that's a problem too, because there's quite a few properties in this town that are listed through trust. And that's how they were getting away with some of that. But in this new program, they wouldn't be able to get away with that. So I kind of feel it's a need, and it's a need within my other communities too, not just the community of Evansdale. My other communities are having the same struggle. Evansdale is just a little bigger community, so you have a little bit more involved. Actually, quite a bit. I mean, there's been quite a few people. I know the mayor and Misty's involved in a lot of this stuff. They see my code, and I'm sure you see my codes. I'm sure we can get you pictures of all the stuff I deal with. So they see all that when you do the reports. They see all the pictures and everything.
They don't see the pictures, they just see the ones that you're,
Cases.
the cases.
If you ever they're available, we can get you pictures of some of the stuff we deal with. I mean, you'd be surprised how bad some of these places are, and they're scattered throughout town. So I feel it's something we need to do. I know we discussed it before with the last council, was something that they didn't feel at the time they wanted to do. So I guess I'm talking to the new council and see how the new council feels about it. I've talked with the mayor and the city clerk. Missy and I both have experience in the rental property business. We've been doing it for a very long time. So we see it. We know what happens. So we both feel, and the mayor kind of feels the same way, we need to do something. And I think this program, I've gone to training twice so far through the city. They've sent me to training for code enforcement and stuff. And this is a problem throughout all the cities around us. All those trainings I've gone to, Sandy, you went to a couple of them.
Right.
It's a huge problem. And I've learned quite a bit at that training. I've learned ways that we can move stuff faster and get stuff done faster. Unfortunately, we have a lot of citizens that think we don't move fast enough. But we can't. I mean, everything we do go through the court system. And unfortunately, the court system does not move fast, and every citizen has a right to a trial. And the court system backed up. So something that you would feel should be done in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we're out months on some of these cases.
Years.
Yeah. I mean,
And it's not necessarily priority with the court system.
No, because they have so much other stuff going on. I mean, there's just a ton of it going on. So, but if we have stuff available to us that we can move forward on, we can get stuff done faster without always having to go to court. So if we have these properties in town and we start setting it up to the point where they have to register with the city, same thing in Waterloo, they pay a fee for registration. There'll be an inspection. You have to have an inspection on your property before you can rent it. So that would start, right away. We would station that off and try and figure it out. But then every 3 years. And the idea that we've talked about with the mayor and the city clerk is to kind of schedule them like we do an inspection every year, so we stretch everything out so that I'm never overwhelmed. And during this time of year, inspections are really low with construction. So I can easily do more stuff during this time of the year. So I feel it's something we need to discuss. I feel it's something that council needs to really consider. If you want to see pictures of some of the properties we deal with, I can get them to you. Otherwise, you're more than welcome. Just drive around town. Every neighborhood has it. Doesn't matter if it's the best neighborhood in town or the worst neighborhood in town. Every neighborhood has something. So, if you have any
So
questions.
a lot of these requirements look like they're based on Section 8 requirements.
Basically, yeah. Dick, you're used to that. You've done
And
some of that
that's
stuff in
pretty
the past.
flexible.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not
Nope.
a big problem. The problem I see, though, is getting landlords to register. That could be a fight.
They do it in Waterloo really well. If you don't register by a date, you get a fine. And if you get to the point where you don't register, and like say if a landlord goes to court and says, "Hey, I wanna kick this tenant out because they haven't paid me rent." Well, if that unit's not registered, you can't even take that tenant to court. So the court
That's
systems
good.
come up with ways too. So if you're a landlord and you own a property and you have a tenant that's not paying your rent and you decided that, hey, I'm not gonna register at the city, I'm not gonna do that, well, the court's gonna stand behind that. So you won't even be able to move forward if you have a bad tenant, you wanna get a bad tenant out of your property, you can't even move forward. It happens in Waterloo all the time. We see it all the time where a landlord's like, well, you weren't registered, so we can't help you. And that gives the tenants, the tenants have rights. Technically speaking, as landlords, we know the fact that you can't deny paying your rent as a tenant. Even if you have structural problems or damages or health issues, you can't deny it. But it does give you a reason when you go to court and you can say, well, my unit's never been inspected, so how does anybody know if I have a safe unit? And it's simple, it wasn't registered, so it was never inspected, so we don't know if it's a safe unit. So that gives the tenant a little more fight on their end of it too. And I'm a landlord, I mean, I do it, I pay all my fees for all my properties, I get my inspections. So I don't see any reason why a reputable landlord would care about it.
But,
I mean, I've talked to some landlords in town, and they're for it. A couple of the landlords I've talked to, they're for it, because they're good landlords, they know they're good landlords.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's a bad idea. But Waterloo's had, what, 25, 30 years to work out all the bugs.
Yeah, there's a lot
And
of
it
bugs.
was Very, very contentious.
Luckily,
They
we're a
actually-
smaller
yeah.
community,
Well,
so we
didn't they
don't have
just
it bad.
start that rental registration?
It was
like-
actually
oh,
in 2013
Yeah.
is when they started it.
Yeah, but we didn't start registering back then. I mean, it was a long time before we registered. We ain't been
They
doing that
didn't-
for 12 years.
They didn't start
Yeah, they
charging
had
a
a program
fee
with
for
that.
it
Okay.
until probably
Okay.
about 2017.
Yeah, so that's how they started making people do it. Because we've always done like Section 8, we have those inspections every
Yeah.
year and stuff, that's pretty common, but they've never done the inspections.
We used to have the fire marshal come. out.
Yes, yeah, back when Steve Jordan was doing, and then they had that new young kid, but the young kid pretty much does commercials. He doesn't come out and do the residentials.
How much is the fee in Waterloo?
It's 25. I know the mayor and Misty have talked a little bit. We're thinking somewhere between the $15 and $20 range.
Every three,
annually.
so
That's a
15
yearly
to
fee.
25 every 3 years,
Every year.
every year? Okay.
Every year. You register it every year. And then, so the situation is, let's say if a landlord registers their property in January, and let's say that landlord decides to sell their property in April. The new owner can take over that property, not have to pay the new fee, but they do have to have a new inspection. So it just gives us an opportunity to see the exchange from that landlord to this landlord. So that fee is transferable to any landlord that purchases the property. They don't have to pay again. It's a $20 fee, I mean, it's gonna cover my costs, help cover the deputy clerk's time or the clerk's time, whoever's gotta get involved. I mean, it's not gonna be an income boost for the city by any means, but it's gonna really help a lot in the
I can see
future.
how to bring in a lot of accountability and
I agree with you, especially these
Yeah.
out of states. We have a lot of out of state landlords. A lot.
Well, we had an incident today even. They have not had any heat, this renter, in their house since 2019.
And the furnace has been bad. They have no working furnace.
And they're
so they use
using
propane heat.
a,
That's what we were told, they're
an
using propane
LP,
heat.
yeah,
Right,
propane heat, which is dangerous.
Yeah.
Very. So Steve, when we approached this a couple years ago and kind of worked through it, and I'm gonna vastly over summarize. Basically, we came down to, we have it in our code to do what we need to do, should it need to be done. But I've heard you say tonight, that's not the case, and I think the mayor said the same way.
Only outside.
So break down for me what we're missing from what, we had it before and now we've discovered we don't,
So we have no access to the interior of the house, and
in
so-
any condition.
any condition.
So
Unless
I
we
can't
get
call
called
you?
out,
Okay,
unless we got called out, but technically, the landlord could refuse us access to it, because we have nothing that says we have to have access to it. So if a tenant were to call us out, technically, I need to reach out to the landlord prior to going out there. Notifying the landlord, hey, we've had a complaint about your property, I need to schedule a time to come out there and look at it. There's nothing in our code of ordinance that gives me the right to do that.
okay.
So the landlord can just say, no, I don't want you there, and I can't do nothing.
And actually, years ago, Justin, the health department used to
Yeah.
oversee that, and they don't do it anymore.
That's why cities are getting these. And it's a lot of cities. Like I said, when I go to these meetings, every city, big city around us has it already, and now the small cities are starting to do it, because what's happening is the bigger cities, when they have all these regulations and stuff, these landlords, well, I'm gonna go to this small town and I'm gonna buy 15, 20 properties over there, and I'm gonna rent them over there because I got nothing to worry about.
Yeah,
And it's
there's-
not our local landlords. I mean, not saying, I will say, there's some situation with some of our local landlords, but a lot of it is the big, property maintenance companies that take care of it for out-of-state owners. You get a lot of out-of-state owners that hire, just maintenance guys, they don't even have a property management company. They just have a maintenance guy who drives around and fixes little odds and ends.
But any of the properties, rentals, that use section 8 are required to be inspected, so there is that.
Yeah, and so if they have that inspections through this code that we're gonna do, they
Right.
don't have to do our program.
Okay.
So if section 8 does their inspection, they will not have to do our program. So section 8 will oversight our program, we won't have to do it.
We have to,
They have to
show
have proof,
of
show proof that
inspection.
it's been inspected, and that it's passed its inspection. They still have to register, but they don't have to do the inspections. Section 8 will cover the inspection, we'll get a letter from section 8 saying this company, this property is approved and it's fine to go.
Who administers section 8 in Evansdale? Housing Authority?
I don't know, yeah,
Housing authority.
yeah.
And then they have their own inspector, apparently.
I'm assuming they would, yeah, to do
Yeah.
the section 8 stuff. I know who does Waterloo, and they might even use Waterloo, I don't know. Waterloo has a couple inspectors, and there's not a lot of, I don't think there's a lot of section 8 in this town that I know of. So I don't know who they use.
Yeah.
There's a lot involved with
couldn't
those
tell you who
inspections. You gotta be,
inspected mine.
you gotta be trained somehow to do them.
That one?
I know mine got inspected. I've got a section 8 tenant in mine.
Yeah, you don't know who did it,
Yeah,
though.
no clue.
Yeah. I was doing a bunch of them for, Operation Threshold for homeless people. And we had several of them in Evansdale, and I didn't know who else was inspecting. I assume whatever administrator has their own inspector.
Yeah, I'm
But you
assuming.
don't do any.
No. It might be something to look into, but if they're doing section 8 anyway, it doesn't involve the city at all. Because their section 8 inspection is gonna take place of our inspection, and we would just need a copy of their letter to put into the file for this. And I'm thinking, I'm not sure if the mayor, city clerk decides, I think we might be able to use the existing program we have and just add something to it to be able to use that program. I mean, there might be something we can add to that existing program for code enforcement that we can do this with. So that way we're utilizing the software that we have already for more, which
I'll look
I
into
talk about that software all the time. It's been a great, great thing for me. I appreciate that software so much. Makes my job so much easier. I can basically do everything in the field from my truck. Misty's gonna get me a printer so I can start hanging my letters on the doors instead of having to come back and get letters. So that's something we're gonna do too. That software has been a really good investment for the city, I feel it has. And I know you guys use it for other stuff too, so that was I think it was very well money spent for my part of the job.
Yeah, it's, I agree. I've been fed from some of our citizens with information in the stacks. So the other thing that, I'm gonna do two pieces here, one of which is a question. The first one of which, the information shown and things, and everything I found was 100% factually correct, is not only are we worried about the safety of people in our town or landlords that just simply aren't doing what the rest of us are required to do for fire code and inspection and just having a nice, safe place to live. It also then deteriorates the property, which lowers the property value, which, not that I'm trying to be money hungry, but that is an existing property that's on the tax roll. And if it's gonna be there anyways, shouldn't we want it to be worth as much as it possibly can be worth? Because that then helps fill coffers without raising taxes because it was already there. So, just setting that aside that is maximizing somebody rather than letting it just become dilapidated, an eyesore, all these other problems.
Right.
So, in that aspect, where I'm going with it as well, is this is something I learned back when I took my first shot at an ordinance with the fire department, is I don't also wanna regulate this into somebody and just force it down somebody's throat. I wanna make sure that we have buy-in as, one, I do agree, something needs done. And if I'm hearing now that we don't have the ability to do what I thought we did previously, shame on me for misunderstanding. I will absolutely own that. But something needs done. Is it everything in front of us? Maybe. Is it something? Absolutely. So would there be a way to meet or offer up to meet with the landlords and the property owners around here and say, hey, we are looking at doing something. Something is gonna happen. This is your time now that we wanna work together to figure out, what do you feel is unfair? What do you feel is, because I also believe in the whole government overreach thing, and that's their property, but I also understand the safety side of it. So I wanna make sure that we're trying to help both sides. I really do. So I want to make sure that if we are moving forward with something, my personal opinion is I would love to continue moving forward, but see something that, hey, can we just meet with, and especially with just landlords, get their opinion in. We may not be able to meet all of their requests or, you know, what they would like to see. It may not be the popular opinion, but at least give them an opportunity, because when they did speak in the past, a couple years ago, they did have some points that I felt were fair. But I also believe those are the ones that probably would not have a problem with any of this, and would also be the ones that we would probably not have a problem with.
Right,
Well, and there's fairly broad latitude in the interpretation.
right.
Especially this one. This is
Yeah.
really good compared to what I've read through Waterloo. Waterloo's a lot stronger on a lot of this stuff. This is more, what I would say, an ease into stuff.
Yep.
You know, Waterloo over the years, they've added a lot to it. Like before, when they first started this program, if you had a garage on the property already and it was in bad shape, they would let you tear it down. Well, they've changed the program now. If you have a garage on that property, you can't tear it down. You have to fix it or rebuild it because it's on the tax roll. They don't want that stuff being removed anymore. So they've gotten a lot more stingent. What we're offering here, I mean, it's basic stuff. I mean, this is everything that us as homeowners want in our house.
Yeah.
So we're not doing anything above and beyond what a basic homeowner wants in their house.
Health and safety. is
Exactly.
really the
Right.
issue.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's everything you see there is basic.
Yep.
We're not being stingent on anything.
Yep. And I agree, I don't want this to be what is some could call, or what even should not feel like a money grab for the city. My personal opinion is
Yeah.
I don't want to profit on this. I just want to make sure that we are drawing the right people to our community, the people that we would like here. And I'm sorry, and I apologize if I offend somebody here, it's not meant this way, but there are absolutely just some people out there that are going to move to our community that are not going to treat the community the way we would like it.
That's
Just
correct.
hands down. And those are not the types of young families and people that are just coming here to just be in a small town in Iowa, in my opinion, that we want here. So this helps make sure that not only landlords are accountable, but then they are able to live their good life too, and enjoy Evansdale.
If you
Sorry,
have
off my soapbox.
properties that are run down, in bad condition, and their landlords are still renting it, they're gonna rent it extremely cheap, and you're gonna get people that you really prefer not to. The neighbors, we're gonna have calls from neighbors, which we get it all the time. I get calls from neighbors all the time. This is happening, this is happening.
Yeah.
So the way to get away from a lot of that stuff is to have regulations.
And
Say
those are typically
basic.
the people that are afraid to call in
Yes.
for the inspection.
Yeah. Basic necessities of life. Everybody deserves clean walls. Everybody deserves a clean floor. Everybody deserves toilet facilities, tubs,
Running water.
everything that works.
When it's
Everybody
13
deserves
below.
heat. You know, that's just all basics that us as homeowners, we want. So tenants should be allowed to have the same thing. And, you know, most landlords, they want that for their tenants. But, you know, unfortunately, there's a few out there, and out-of-state landlords who don't even know what their properties look like.
Right.
I mean, they're shocked when we send a picture. It's like, oh, I haven't been there in 6 years. You know, the same tenant's been there. They don't call and complain. Well, the house is falling apart around them, and they don't want to get kicked out because your rent's reasonable. You can't. We have tenants out there that are paying $650 for a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom house. Those are going for $1,200, $1,500. So if you're living in a house and you're paying $650, you're not going to complain to your landlord about something because he's going to come in and say, "Oh, I'm going to update the house. I'm going to double your rent." Well, then you got nowhere to live. But if we mandate it so that all the houses are equally, you know, it's going to help everything in the long run. Rents will equal out. It'll just be a better program. I mean, we just.
But, you know, that is an important point, and I don't think that this goes too far.
No.
But if you went too far, you are making less affordable housing, and that is a concern. But
This is basic. If you look at this, you're familiar with this stuff.
Yeah,
Dick.
this
This
is
is
pretty
basic.
basic.
We're basically asking people, you know, slap some paint on your house in certain areas. We don't expect you to side the house. We want it to look, this house is out there, the paint's just falling off, the boards are falling off. We're asking you to tighten those boards up, paint that structure. You got a broken window, fix the broken window. If you got shingles blown off your roof, fix the shingles. We're not asking you to go in there, a whole new roof, reside your house, and we're not asking for that. We're just asking for a solid, conditioned house so that tenants have a good place to live. That's all we're asking for. And I don't
do
feel
we
it's
have
much.
house numbers in here? That's one of my pet peeves.
That's
We do.
actually-
It's
But
horrible.
that's actually a code though, and
It is.
I just put it in our recent newsletter,
We talked about that.
reminding people.
I have a hard time trying to find houses. I can imagine what the fire department, that's one of our biggest struggle with the fire department. Luckily, you know, the fire department, when I was still on, now we have the GPS and trucks. So at least we have a general idea when we show up, we just don't see a number on the house. You know, and it's like, usually people are outside waving at us, that helps, but we see flames shooting out of the house, that helps quite a bit. Yeah, numbers are bad, and then, you mentioned numbers, people are putting numbers on their decorations in their yard. That's not where the numbers belong. So that is a huge issue. Like, I totally agree with that.
It's a
huge
pet
issue.
peeve of mine.
Yeah. And that's on there too. I mean, that's on our original code. So if you, I'm sure you've had a chance to look at that. If you look at this, there's spots in there that say that it transfers back to our original code. If something isn't covered in this, it goes back to our original code. So we're protected both ways.
This was just to see, you know, we had it on the agenda tonight just to get a consensus. If this is something, after Steve's done.
Yeah. no,
Get a
this-
consensus if this is something we want to move forward with. You know, it'll go through the whole process of an ordinance. It'll also go through a process of resolutions, so be thinking, you know, like Steve said, we're talking about, you know, doing a $15 registration fee. We're not looking to get, you know, we're not looking for this to be a revenue stream. We're looking for safety for the
We do
people
wanna
that
cover
live in
some
our
of
city.
costs, though. We don't want it to be a burden on the city either, though.
You're gonna have more time then. You
Yeah,
can
that's,
cover the costs.
it's gotta cover
Right.
majority of our costs. We don't want it to be a burden on the city either.
Right, exactly.
Well,
So
I mean,
the,
again, being a new program, we can fill out those fees. So, I mean, to me, again, I'm fine kind of operating a year or two at a deficit just to get the program rolling. Because again, I understand both sides, and again, some of the points that the landlords made were valid.
yeah,
I'm at the point, we need to do something. So again, I retract that we thought we had it before, but I also am not here to overburden or over-regulate anything down somebody's throat personally. I want
Right.
to make sure that this is a benefit that everyone can agree upon and move. So I'm with you too. I don't want to have to necessarily put it on taxpayers to run at a loss, because obviously the landlord should be making money, and if they need to squeeze in that extra 10 or 20 bucks, I bet they could do it.
I have
But
a
I'm also
feeling-
not looking to, yeah.
I believe part of the problem was when we first talked about this originally, is that I wasn't properly trained, or I didn't have enough knowledge of what was going on our current codes. So I didn't answer that question correctly at that time. Now that I've had more time, I've done some of this training, I should have answered that question better when it was asked, because even at that time it was asked, we didn't have it then either. So we've really never had codes that lets
No,
us really take care of
not
this stuff.
this.
So part of that I can say was a bad call on my end, because I didn't answer the question properly. But there again, I had just started, we were just doing this, and there's a lot more involved in this. I've done Raymond for 12 years, but Raymond's a much smaller town. So once I got out here and started doing it, and the mayor sent me to a couple classes, I've really learned a lot. So then I've been doing a lot of homework through this, and yeah, it wasn't available last time either. So maybe council at that time, had they known it wasn't available, maybe they might have thought about it a little harder. But
And we may go through some fine tuning on this with the public hearing, you know, once we get the landlord's
Yeah.
perspectives.
and I do have a landlord that actually reached out to me. I talked to the landlord about this and, you know, their thoughts, and they have several properties all over the Cedar Valley. And they would love to start an organization here in Evansdale for landlords.
we do have Blackhawk County Landlord Association, and that's usually where cities reach out. They start with reaching out to them, because there's a lot of people involved, a lot of your bigger landlords, a lot of your landlords are registered. We re-register through it. That would be the place if you really want to reach out to somebody. And, you know, they're already prepared for it, because they deal with it already.
Right. A lot of
And
knowledge
that's a good,
there.
that's a good portion of all the landlords that are around there are through Blackhawk County Landlord Association. So that'd be a good place if you wanna reach out to, and they're already familiar with it. And them reading what we're offering, they'll probably be relieved, cause it's a lot less than Waterloo offered, is making them do, so.
It's a process we will move forward with.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
I just want to say, I think everybody had some very valid points tonight. In regards to what Justin said, that kind of got my feathers in a ruffle just a little bit there, where I decided I should probably come up here. Like Steve said, there are organizations for landlords already within Black Hawk County. And if you're going to be pulling the landlords and homeowners aside and talking to them, then who's representing the tenants of these houses that they're living in? And so that's not really fair. I feel like the landlords have just as much opportunity as anybody else to come up here, just like I'm up here right now, to meet with them separately. Just doesn't sit right with me. If you're gonna meet with the landlords, I think it needs to be made public, something like a town hall meeting. And then I think you should also take into consideration that we do have a housing authority here in town. And, you know, you could refer to them as well. So if we're gonna be fair about it, we need to make sure that we give every opportunity the same opportunity. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
Mayor?
Yeah.
I'd like to ask Steve a question. When you issue a citation to someone to have things cleaned up, you normally go back and how much time to check up?
We usually give them 14 days after
Okay.
the citation. Sometimes it does take a little bit
Yeah,
longer.
I
because
realize
I'm
that.
Involved in so much other stuff, going to court, trying to deal with bigger court cases. So in anything, we're just giving them more time to clean it
Yeah,
up.
I agree with that. But
If
the
they
thing
don't-
is though, when you finally go back to them, how many times do you go back before you give them a citation?
Just the one time.
Just the one time.
So I go back, I think I recognize you.
Mm-hmm.
So, your neighbor, the first time I was there, a lot of my concern was all that trash that they had by their doors.
Yeah.
You know, there was a ton of trash by the doors. They did have the trees and stuff in the backyard, but when I was there that first time, I concentrated on that trash.
Okay.
And I didn't have pictures of the backyard.
Yeah.
So when I went back the first time, they cleaned up the trash over there, so I wasn't concerned about it. And then when you reached out to me, I went back and then I took the pictures of all the yard waste in the backyard, and then I sent them a new letter and started a new case on the yard waste.
Because the one lady came over and read the riot act to me.
I never,
Yeah,
I
I
never
mean-
tell anybody where
Yeah.
anything comes from.
Yeah,
if they
I'm
ask
sure,
me.
I'm sure
I
they,
tell them I don't know either, I'm just told to
Yeah.
go look at them, because everybody is all over jumping
Yeah.
on me. Who told you? Oh, I know who did it, you know.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
deal with that with Elk Run too, it's just,
Yeah.
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 I never say a word to
No.
anything.
I want you to know, nothing's ever been done in the backyard.
Yeah. It's on my list.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, John. 14 is a request to approve one-year agreement for IT services with Mainstay Systems of Iowa LLC in the amount of $5,100 as budgeted for FY '25. This is for the police department. They have went to a new IT service. We don't ever see, you know, the money flowing in, flowing out because it's paid by CGIS, which is under their data processing portion of their budget. So, you know, because they have fees and stuff that they pay for their data processing for their system because that's owned by Black Hawk County, et cetera, et cetera. So that just all goes through their CGIS portion of their budget. But, you know, since they did sign an agreement, we need council to approve.
I was down, happened to stop and talk with Stephanie about something sort of related, but it was the day that they were there kind of onboarding, so I got to meet both the
yes.
gentlemen that were coming in.
Good.
Mainstay specifically, and why out of Des Moines, because that's, I asked, you know, where you
Yeah.
out of, well, out of Des Moines, it's like, well, we got plenty around. Here, they actually specialize, most of their clients are in the law enforcement side, they're familiar with the software, how they connect, how we talk in Black Hawk County and all that, so, very good conversation with them. I had no major red flags or any issues. It seems to be that it's worth trying for a year for sure. My opinion.
Excellent. I'll take a motion to approve.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? 15 is the sewer line cleaning I referenced earlier in our budget. And you do have a memo regarding that, just the difference in costs, in which This is a map, actually, that was prepared by Chris even when the sewer line cleaning had started. And then there's a proposal from People Service. One of the benefits with People Service is they would actually map our wastewater collection system, and it would be mapped in GIS. That would belong to us. It comes with a subscription for $75 a month, but it just kind of gives you some ideas, the different things right now. You know, we talked about doing GIS mapping for several years. We probably need to get back to that conversation, but not today. But basically, the memo is telling you, you know, the difference in both of them. I'm not looking for, I'm not really looking for a decision tonight. I would really like you to ponder the difference in the two different ones. You know, one is in both situations, both case scenarios, they're going to be utilizing our equipment. So,
The question I had on it, and I don't, Mayor, if you know, or Chris, this is even something maybe you may know, are the telegraphing, the mapping and things of it, is it of $28,000 worth of value to us? Is this something that in the future we're gonna get bid on and we're gonna have to do anyways? Is it gonna be something that we're, you know, gonna be mandated into as anything to where, okay, we do it now, it might be a little cheaper, but we're a significant cost difference for that, I'll call it one line item, you know, to
right,
that.
exactly. Well, the last time we looked at GIS was what? GIS was 3 years ago, 4 years ago? Longer? And it was 30,000 at that point. So I don't know if this is a comparable system. Are you familiar with the Diamond system at all? Okay. So that's something that we can look into before we put it on the agenda to move forward.
Yeah, I'd like to see what the benefits of that are and everything. And
Yeah.
So what, is it more advantageous to have Chris as a seasonal employee or a subcontractor?
Well, I mean,
Even though the use of city equipment gets,
that gets
dicey.
hairy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It really does. Because
Yeah.
a true
Is that the
subcontractor, a true independent contractor,
Yeah.
I would actually have to have our attorney's opinion on that.
yeah,
Because once you enter in that they're using our equipment,
yeah, that's the sticking point.
it is.
Insurance, everything changes.
Yeah.
So you bring your own stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm having trouble seeing the difference in value there, but
Yeah.
Well, all I know is I'd be in favor of Chris doing it. I know you said we're gonna have further discussions, but
Yeah, well, I just wanted to
Yeah.
wanted to bring it to you tonight. I want, you know, you to have time to think about it and what would be in the best interest of the city moving forward before it was approved. And, you know, please feel free to give me a call if you have any questions or things that I need to look into further. So. Mayor council reports, I just have one item, that we met with the city of Waterloo today, the city of Waterloo for, probably ever since that we've have traffic lights, has been maintaining our system. So they come in every month, and we get billed quarterly, but they come every month and just look at the, you know, they're making sure our traffic lights are working properly. You know, they make adjustments, they replace bulbs, they do all that, right in the middle of the intersection on Evansdale Drive too. We found out today that they no longer will be serving the city of Evansdale. Our agreement with them will be over, June 30th. And so we are gonna have to seek out another service that can help us with our traffic lights that we have in our city.
can we put in a roundabout?
Yeah. Can
Oh,
you
not
see a,
really.
can you see a roundabout on Evansdale Drive
Yeah.
indoors?
Jeez.
Oh, my God.
Bad enough with the stop line.
I wouldn't mind having one here, though.
Yeah,
Lafayette and Evans would be a great place, and it'd probably cut down on our truck traffic on Lafayette.
No thanks.
Point.
But anyway, that's a dream of mine for
stay in
the
the
future. But it is, I thought they were just gonna hit us with a huge increase, but it was like, no, they're too tied up with too many things going on in the city where I
So
live to,
they're our lights, they're our property,
Yeah.
but now we gotta find somebody else to work on it.
yeah.
Okay.
We don't have the technology. I mean, that's engineer type stuff, you know. But she gave us a couple names. One of them is K&W Electric. The other one I'm not familiar with. And they've been integral in our wastewater treatment plant. So it's something that Chris and I will reach out and go from there. But that's all I have, guys. Anyone else?
I don't think so.
Take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Great meeting.
Thank you.
so were we done with our budget discussions? I thought we were gonna go back into that since we're.
No.
Tonight.